has been a super long time, like years long time, since I've done my own personal update about my hCG journey, maintaining my weight loss, all of that. So I thought, okay, I need to sit down and do this. I actually did do some video updates over the years, but I never edited them and uploaded them.
Hey guys, hCG Chica. I'm here to give you my 4-year update since finishing hCG. Hey guys, hCG Chica. I wanted to do a quick update because it has been 5 stinking years that I've been maintaining my weight loss from the hCG diet protocol.
So the last time I shared something with you was on my 2-year maintenance anniversary. And I'm now at my 6-year maintenance anniversary. So I finished my last round of hCG in November of 2012, and it's now November 2018. So it's been 6 whole years. I've not done the hCG diet again since that time. So this whole time I have been maintaining of my own accord, just with the way that I eat and, some corrections here and there. I'll talk briefly about that. So, but yeah, that's how things are going. I began the hCG diet in February of 2011. And at that point, I was 172 pounds, which at 5'1" is quite heavy. I'm a shorty. And so at that point, I was a size 16. Technically, I was an 18. I was at that point, as many of you ladies, a lot of you do this, where you own a size of clothing. So I owned a size 16 clothing, but they had all become too tight. So I know if I had gone shopping, the clothing that would have now fit me would be a size 18. But for me, that was kind of like the cutoff point. I was like, no, I cannot go there. And it was at that point that I ended up coming across the hCG protocol, quite by accident, actually. So yeah, and that's when I ended up starting. And as I said, I finished my last round in November 2012. I did a total of 5 rounds of hCG. I did use injections. And 4 of my rounds were the 6-week long rounds, like 40, 43 days. And then one of my rounds was a short 23-day round. Out of those 5 rounds, technically only 4 of them were necessary, in the sense that my second round was a complete flop. I cheated for much of the round. I regained all the weight like immediately after the end of that round. And so round 3 was basically a redo of round 2. So just because I get a lot of questions about that, like how many rounds did you do and how long did it take you to lose the weight you lost? So I ended up losing about 50 pounds. I went from 172 pounds, size 18, to a size 2'4", and I initially ended at like 118 pounds or so. But for me, my maintenance weight that I've maintained for the last several years has been between 125 and 130 pounds. Now, what's interesting about this, not too many of you may know about body fat testing and body composition testing. I did that all throughout my rounds. There's like this, it's kind of like a bathtub with water, and you go and you hold your breath and you breathe it all out, and then they mark your body fat, and it's pretty accurate. So what's neat to note is that I actually have maintained 100% of my fat loss for the last 6 years from the diet, even though I weigh a good 10, 12 pounds more than when I finished the diet. And you might be like, wait, how's that possible? So actually what it is that the rest of the weight that's made up there is muscle. So I have that in my testing. I'll show you a couple screenshots if I can of those tests to show you that. So I've maintained basically 100% of my fat loss, which that's the part that matters. So it's been really nice actually gaining muscle over the years, because that allows me to eat more while still maintaining my weight loss. And I do feel like that's made a big difference for me in my personal maintenance as far as the ease with which I do it. I do occasionally need to make corrections. So for me, kind of my little cutoff point on the scale, even with building muscle, is 130 pounds. Anything above that, I start feeling uncomfortable in my clothes, and it's just kind of my little mental little wall there. So like for instance, today I was 129.8. I've been pretty much the last couple months between 127 and 129. So I'm actually a little bit on the higher end right now. But I've also been rebuilding some muscle due to a little bit of an injury earlier this year. But anyway, so typically what I'll do once I kind of get to that higher end, if I'm feeling like it might be fat and not muscle, which I can tell, it's just a different type of flabbiness, I will utilize intermittent fasting. So I just do this like maybe 1 or 2 days a week, max, and I will just do that. Sometimes I may only need to do it once or twice if it's, if I only need to go down a little bit. Or maybe there was a time, I can't remember if it was year 2 or 3, when I did gain about 5 pounds of fat. And at that point, I did intermittent fast throughout the summer. So like 1 or 2 days a week, just here and there where it fit into my schedule. And the rest of the time I was eating as I normally do. But I did that, most of the summer. And then when I retested my body fat, I had lost, there is a fly in here, bad timing. I had lost all that fat actually. So I was really pleased with that because I wasn't really like dieting for, like every day eating, having to restrict myself. It just easily fit within my lifestyle, and it was a small enough amount of weight to not have to, start a whole another round of hCG, because as we all know, it is a very restrictive diet. I think it's excellent for when you need to go that route and you have a chunk to lose. But to me, if you have 5 to 7 pounds or less to lose, for me personally, I feel like trying to lose it with intermittent fasting and just fitting that into your lifestyle is ideal, as long as you can be patient, because it's going to take a number of times of doing that to lose that weight. So just giving yourself a little bit of time, which I'm fine with. The one thing that I'd like to share that I talked about on some of my other maintenance videos that I never published is the biggest change I've experienced through both my weight loss journey and my maintenance journey is for me the fact that I no longer experience negative feelings about my body and how it looks. And at first you might be like, especially if you're still overweight and you're not to your ideal body yet, you might be like, well, of course you're happy with your body because you're thin, But here's the thing, for anyone who's ever been thin and still not been happy with their body, you know what I'm talking about. When I was in high school, I was 102 pounds. I was a size 0. I was very thin, much thinner than I am now. I weigh 129 now. I was 102 then. So that's a pretty big difference, right? I didn't grow any since then. But I had negative thoughts about my body all the time. I felt like my legs were still fat. Anytime I, ate a large meal, I would be paranoid about, if I was going to be fat again or what my weight would be. And it was a pretty consuming feeling that I would have about my body all the time. And it really wasted a lot of both my energy and my time. Like, I was so distracted by that there was just so much time and energy lost to something, such a wasteful use of that, when I could have used that time and energy for something positive, to learn something, to do something for others, just to be more present with something that was worthwhile. So I think for me, that's been the biggest change. And it's definitely taken time. Just simply doing the hCG diet did not, create that result for me. It's actually been a process partly fueled by CrossFit. I don't know how many of you guys know about CrossFit. I have talked about it a lot on my videos. I've been CrossFitting for 7 years now. So my CrossFit anniversary is 1 year behind my hCG anniversary. And you do a lot of heavy weightlifting there, interval training. And what I learned from doing that is to take pride in my body for its strength rather than the thinness of it in a mirror. I don't know if that makes sense, but it was a huge mind shift for me. Do you know how like sometimes guys will be like, they're afraid of getting skinny. Like for them, they would rather be a little overweight but muscular than be thin. A lot of men, not all men, but some men. And I always felt like, for us, I'm like, I cannot resonate with that. I have no idea what you're talking about. For most of us women, we would be happier the thinner we were. And somehow in the middle of the weightlifting and seeing all the other women weightlift, and there's no mirrors at CrossFit at all, except the bathroom. So when you work out, you can't see yourself. It's purely about, what can my body do? And every time you lift more weight or you do a movement with the barbell that's more complex, you're like, wow, my body did that. Like I did that. That's so cool. And so as you become stronger, however your weight is affected and however visually your body is affected, I have a much more muscular look now than I, did when I was 102 pounds. You're happy with it because that picture of what your body looks like is just connected with what you can do. And that's my reality now. And that's really just how I think of my body. And so I no longer have those negative thoughts. And for me, I feel like that's been the most freeing thing. And I'm hoping that more of you can experience that as well. The other thing I've done, which I do think may have helped, I'm not really sure, is I don't have a lot of mirrors in my home. For a long time, I actually had no full-length mirrors for the last several years of my maintenance. We had just like one mirror in the bathroom, and we were renting at the time, and the gentleman that mounted it is tall. So he had positioned it so that when I stood up, I could only pretty much see like to here on myself because the mirror was so high. So as a result, I could never really see my body and what it looked like. I just knew what my weight was and I knew my clothes fit. So I left it at that. And I think that's also contributed to me learning to be happy with my body. It's just so easy when you look in a mirror to scrutinize where parts stick out, where after you ate a meal, where it sticks out more. And I wasn't able to do that because of not having a mirror. I do have one full-length mirror now, but to be honest, I probably only look in it like once every 2 or 3 months. So I just throwing that out there just because I grew up having a mirror and looking in it all the time, and so that's something different. And I think for a lot of us ladies, addressing the mental and emotional aspect of weight is important to long-term maintenance, because for me anyway, I would get into a cycle of self-sabotage where if I had overeaten or I felt yucky about my body for whatever reason, that would not be a motivator for me to eat better. It would somehow cause me to eat worse. So just by being so discouraged, I would kind of just give up and just eat more crap and have more problems with my weight to deal with. So by kind of not having that be in the picture anymore, it's so much easier for me to make corrections and to take the needed steps when things maybe start to get a little out of control, to do it without much emotion attached to it. And I no longer feel that urge to just totally blow it and give up and just eat whatever, all the time anymore. And I think that's just really important to try to get to that point. I do talk about this a fair amount in the coaching section of my Phase 3 to Life program. If you don't know what that is, that's at p3tolife.com, p3tolife.com, and it's a structured program for Phase 3 and beyond. And it's been out since March 2017. So this coming March, it'll be 2 years. We have tons of testimonials, videos, success stories. It's so wonderful. It's a complete meal plan that you follow and that will really help you stabilize your weight and maintain. But also in there, I have a whole coaching section, just because, like I said, that was such a huge aspect to being able to maintain. It wasn't just about like, well, I should eat, if I eat this, this, and this, everything will be fine. We all know that it's not that easy. We all know what we should eat at different times, some of the time, but it's the matter of doing it, right? So that's why I address that in there. So anyway, there's more on that if you want to hear about that. So anyway, that's kind of where I've come from and changed mentally over the past several years. I think I mentioned that I've been basically between 125 and 130 pounds for the past 6 years, basically. And I wanted to mention too the idea of what body it is you're trying to maintain that I think has a bearing. So for me, as I said, I'm actually close to 30 pounds higher than the smallest I ever was. But the thing is I have a chronic health illness and I'm getting on 40. And when you deal with those things or you get older, you become a little more reasonable with what is sustainable long term. And so that's the point that I'm at. I don't need an ideal body. I just want a healthy body that I feel comfortable in. And for me, being a size 4 is like my comfort level. I don't have like too much extra around my middle that feels yucky and uncomfortable. But I definitely have excess fat still, But this is a weight I can maintain while still eating the amount that feels good to me. You know, I don't want to be living in a constant deficit or a constant deprivation, and I don't have to do that to maintain this weight. If I wanted to get down to say 120 pounds at my current body fat level, because I do have an athlete's body fat percent level, it's like around 17%. Right now it might be a little higher, I'm not sure, but you know, I'm between 16 and 18% body fat most of the time, which is considered athlete level, which means that I have a lot of muscle now for the total body weight that I have and not as much fat. So to get down to like 120 pounds and be more like a, you know, very comfortable size 2 again, I would really have to restrict myself, of course, for the diet part. You know, I'm sure I could do it with hCG, but then the question is when I got to maintenance, what would I have to eat like daily? And for me, it's something I'm not willing to do because I know I would have to be more restricted. Let me just share a little bit maybe about what I eat. So there was a period of time where I started tracking my calories. I had kind of like this abnormal fear of tracking my calories actually for a while, and so I didn't do it for years. I was just somehow paranoid to know what I ate, as if knowing how many calories I eat would just somehow equate to weight gain, even though I was eating the same thing I always do and not gaining weight. So it wasn't rational. But anyway, I kind of got over that fear for a little bit. I tracked my calories. I eat very much the same way for the most part every day. I do have different dinners. I don't eat breakfast. That's probably key. Haven't eaten breakfast for 6 years. But my lunch pretty much is the same pretty much every day. So I eat around 2,000 calories a day, essentially, once I added it all up. I found that, and remember, I'm only 5'1", so that's pretty good for a 5'1" person that's like 128 pounds. That's pretty good. So, and that includes regular carbs too. I'll explain that in a minute. So if I eat less than that, if I eat, say, 1,700 calories, I will lose weight and I might be a little hungry. If I eat more than 2,000 calories, like 2,100, 2,200, I will start to slowly gain. So that's kind of how I figured out, you know, where my maintenance zone is. And I'm sure it fluctuates from time to time. I do CrossFit 2 to 3 days a week. Most of the time, 3 days a week. So, you know, I'm not like exercising 2 hours a day every day or anything to do this as well. It's very minimal. Again, because of my health condition, I'm actually pretty limited. My energy is very limited. And so that's really the max that I can do without feeling really crappy. So I try to get my 3 days a week. CrossFit's 1 hour each class. The actual workout time where you're like heavy breathing and it's super hard, that's only about 20 to 30 minutes of the class. Probably most of the time about 20, 25 minutes. So if you're looking at actual, you know, this is hard workout time, that's really only 1 hour a week technically, in order to sustain my muscle, to grow, and to be able to eat the way I do. Just to encourage you guys, if you're feeling intimidated by the idea of exercise, first of all, find a way to do it that is something you can stick with. I just cannot work out alone in my home. I can't. I just won't do it. So for me, I need to go to a place and I need to be with a group of people. And that's what I love about CrossFit. It's a group setting and everyone's working out hard, and somehow that's just enough to help me do it. So definitely take a look at what's realistic for you. You know, don't give up if you're trying to work out at home and you just can't stick to it. Try something else. And then the other thing is realizing that you don't have to do a lot in order to maintain, you know, and for it to be enough. So many people mistakenly think that you have to work out every single day or 5 days a week or, you know, kill yourself every day. And I've just found it's not needed. And I don't do any cardio either. You know, I don't do any treadmill running or, you know, anything like that. So the classes at CrossFit, you know, they're high intensity, but they're short. And yeah, I just get it in there, get it done, and move on. And that's really all that's needed. So maybe keep that in mind too when you're thinking about what you think you need to do in order for it to be beneficial to you. So as far as what I actually eat of my 2,000 calories, I have a couple sandwiches every day with gluten-free bread. I am 100% gluten-free. I discovered through the hCG protocol that I was allergic to gluten. And if I have gluten now, it feels like there is a forest fire in my intestines, and it feels like I need to go to the ER. That's how bad the pain is. So I'm very good about avoiding it. That's quite a motivator, having a physical sensation like that. So I do have gluten-free bread, but like I said, I do have 2 sandwiches every day. So one is like grilled cheese with half the cheese. And then another is, it's got like turkey deli meat, bacon, avocado, tomato, lettuce, a little mayo, and pepperoncinis. Pepperoncinis are key. If you do get a sandwich, you need to add pepperoncinis on like a club sandwich like that. So I have that like basically every day. And that is definitely a good portion of my carbs for the day. There's about 70 to 80 grams of carbs in those 2 sandwiches. I know. You guys are like, what? I'm telling you, it's CrossFit that lets me do that. So it's crazy. So I do have that. And then at dinner, it's more low carb usually, just whatever, meat, vegetable, little salad, just, variety of things like that. I do actually eat a lot of the meals in the P3 to Life meal plan. So we make them all the time and they're really, really good. So it kind of helps me to just, keep up with my own program. Yeah, so that's kind of in a nutshell. Like I said, I don't eat breakfast, so that kind of compensates for things. So basically what I end up doing is having 2 larger calorie meals each day, and then I do snack at night. So I'll have, there's some dessert smoothies in the P3 to Life program. I have those all the time. I love them. They're super low calorie, but have a lot of volume, and they're really yummy, and they taste like ice cream. So for me, that's kind of my one of my main snacks. And in the morning, I just have a couple large cups of black tea with a little half and half and stevia. And that's kind of been my routine for years now. So it seems to work for me. Anyhow, that's my update. It still went on longer than I intended. I think I'm just not capable of making a short video unless I cut my long video into parts physically. I think that's just the only way. I'm just a long-winded person. But it has been 4 years since I gave you an update, so it does take a little bit to catch you up on 4 years. So anyway, I hope that this is encouraging to you guys, that you can maintain your weight loss. What you really just need is a strategic plan. You have to be logical about it. That was when things shifted for me, was when I stopped trying to do the same thing over and over that kept not working, but actually really analyze what's the problem, why is it possibly not working, and what exact steps could I possibly try to change it, to make it different. And that's kind of where the P3 to Life program came about, because I was able to really just analyze food and nutrition more, and I learned so much. Because a lot of us ladies get into trouble with just having the term low carb. It's like not enough guidance, And I would overeat. I would eat low carb. I wouldn't have sugar. I wouldn't have grain. I wouldn't have high carb vegetables. But I was still overeating, and I didn't realize that. And since I'm a person who likes to eat a lot, I eat more than my husband most of the time, and he's 6 feet tall and 185 pounds. And I do, yesterday, I eat more than him. So for me, having enough volume in my food is super important. That's I start almost having a panic anxiety attack if I feel like I can't have any more food for the day, or you know what I mean? I need to know that I have options and that I can eat what I want as far as volume goes. So for me, that's kind of the more important thing. I would much rather have a larger dessert and eat kind of till I feel like I'm done than to have one ball of the most decadent chocolate you've ever had. And I know some of you ladies might pick the decadent ball of chocolate, but a lot of us it's more about volume. I just don't have self-control with tiny amounts of food. I just don't. Even now, I just really don't. If I'll try something like that, and I always get myself into trouble. I always have to do a correction day because I just can't handle it. So just be realistic with what you can handle. So that's where the design of the P3 to Life program came from, and that's why it works so well, is because the way the meals are designed, they're very filling for the calories. And that, for a lot of us, is key. That's the number one important thing to figure out about your maintenance. For any one of you that's like me, that needs some volume with your food, that tends to overeat, figuring out how that occurred, how you get the volume with not too many calories. And really what it's all about is having enough vegetables, having enough water. In our dessert smoothies, there's a lot of ice, so it creates a volume, but then still has the flavor from the spices or the little bit of fruit or the cocoa, whatever. And that's kind of what helps you just eat in a way that feels like, oh, I could eat like this forever. Like this is enough. I could do this, you know, long term. So that's it for my hCG Chica personal update after 6 years. It's crazy to think that I have been on YouTube since 2011 and now it's 2018. I mean, that's like, actually it's almost 2019. It's gonna be my 8-year YouTube anniversary in a few months. 8 years, isn't that crazy? And the really weird thing about all this is that I've actually seen myself age on video. So it's really strange to go back to some of my older videos and blog posts that I recorded, you know, like 6 years ago and just see my face has changed, you know, I'm aging. I'm okay with it though, I'm okay with it. My son is 9 now, so when I started the protocol, he was just like this little baby bopping around in front of my webcam with me and trying to grab stuff, and I'm like trying to talk to you guys about my weight loss that day, and I'm like, no, sit down, you know, like, okay, be quiet, I'm almost done. And then he'd be like sticking his face in there, and it's so crazy. And yeah, now he's 9. So anyway, all right, thank you guys for watching and listening. Bye.